Hello and welcome to my first collaboration post of 2024. Oh my goodness, how is it possible it's 2024? So I'm going to do something a little different for this collaboration. Normally I have I do a challenge or a collaboration where I reach out to my fellow artists, see who wants to participate, and then we share the results of that collaboration. This one, I really am wanting you to kind of play along with me virtually for the collaboration. And I'm also going to use an idea for a collaboration challenge that I've done for StencilGirl a couple of times called the Stencilfied Journal, where I share prompts. And those prompts may push you out of your comfort zone from time to time because I got some crazy things that we're going to do. So I'm going to do this for the next 14 days. I'm going to share, and this is day one, on how to put together just a really fun journal. Something a little different that I've actually never created myself. I've seen other ones out there, but I thought it would be fun for this because we can actually remove pages and work on them, do the crazy things to them, and then re-add them to our book. So my first one is going to be how to create the journal. If you choose to do this, you don't have to do this. And then follow along for the next 2 weeks with a prompt that I'll share each day. I am going to try to record myself as I work on the page for that. I can't make promises that I'm going to do it every day, but I am going to try to do that. So let's get to the journal. So these are just 2 book covers that I had in my stash, and I'm trying to use up what I have. If you don't have a book cover, you can take a book apart if you choose. You can use cardboard from a recent box that you have in your trash, your recycle bin. You can cut it to whatever size you want. So the size I'm using, which actually works really well for how we're going to bind these together, is not quite 7.5 inches tall and about 4 3/4 inches wide. And this is kind of a nice size that I'm working on. If you don't have that, they have, if you want to make a smaller one or even a bigger one, you can get some flat panel canvases. These are art panels. I have a bunch of these in my stash, and these are nice because they're, pretty thick, and you could use that for the same process as a small journal. You can do the same. Whatever you might have, something that is sturdy for the cover for your book, and it's going to hold everything together. You're also going to want some preferred bookbinding tape. So this is one of my bookbinding tapes that I don't have in inventory anymore, but I am going to use it for this book. So I do have some of these really nicely bright colored patterned ones in my shop. But a bookbinding tape would be great. If you don't, then maybe a couple of strips of masking tape. Just a second. Sorry about that. Masking tape that you might go over a few times. Something that's going to really hold everything together, because the other thing that you're going to use as a binding is something elastic. So when we put this on here, it's got to be strong enough to withstand the strength of the elastic on it. So you can't just put washi here because it would rip right through it. So you'll see what I mean when I start to construct the book. And then a stash of papers. So I just kind of went through my scrap stash here and pulled out papers. I would say, so like in this case, I'm going to probably bind these where they're maybe this far apart, and I think this is about 10 inches wide. Yeah, so I'm going to leave a little space here in between. So you want a paper, for me, now you can do whatever, makes you happy. I really do want to contain my papers in my book, so I don't want them to be longer than 10 inches wide. And I also don't want them to be taller than my book here, which, what did I say, is 7 and let's say call it 7.5. You can obviously make them smaller, and you'll see what I mean by that, because I think it's really fun to have variety in there where you have a page that's this tall, a page that's this tall, and you can see the peaks of them throughout. So gather a stash of papers. I have more paper here than what I'm going to probably use for the challenge, but then I can You know, I can repeat my challenge, which I think would be fun because I could use maybe different stencils or a different color palette and redo the prompts to, you know, keep working in my book. So anyway, you want that. And then you're going to also want the binding. So these are just different options here. I got these all on Amazon, and I can link up if you guys are interested from different things that you can do. So the first one is this really thick rubber band type. This might be a little tough because it is so thick, and if you put paper in there, it's not going to fold nice because it's such a thick thing. But these are actually really nice to hold the book closed because they're really sturdy. I can put them here, and it's actually a closure for my book. So I got these on Amazon. You have these, which I think are going to be what I probably use because they fit this perfectly in size. Maybe a bit tight, and I'll have to see as I put papers on there if maybe it's a bit too tight. But I have a pack of these in some really pretty like jewel tone colors. This is another one that's a thicker elastic that is probably a little loose, but maybe after when I get paper in here, maybe it will hold it tight. I might have to tack it down to my book potentially, or I could cut it, shorten it, and maybe stitch it back together, but I thought these were kind of nice. And then there's also just ribbon, elastic ribbon that you can buy that's, you know, in larger quantities. So, you know, if those don't work, I might have to cut a piece that is going to fit, cut it, and then just tie it together, and that might become my choice. But we'll do this once I get my book constructed. So I'm just going to put these to the side here. So this is going to be the front, this is going to be the back, and I am going to use this bookbinding tape. So I'm going to take a piece of tape that I'm going to do this on both sides of my book. So it overlaps on itself because in this area in the center, I don't want the stickiness to show through. Plus it adds strength. So if I look at my pages here, I want it to overlap itself. So I definitely want it to be, you know, twice the height of this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this and have it ready. And I am just going to place it here on my table upside down. And this bookbinding tape is super sticky. Like, it's so sturdy, so sticky, but it's fabulous. And what I'm going to do is, again, I wanted a space in between my two plates. I don't know, it's probably about 1/2 of an inch. So I'm gonna just eyeball it. If you're one of those people that really needs to have things perfect and measured out, please take the time to do that. Me, I kind of go with it, and I am just going to eyeball it and place it right onto my tape. So I'm trying to center it on my piece of tape here, and I'm also going to place it in here where I have the same amount here and the same amount here that's going to overlap on the edges here of my book with that space inside. I need that space inside so I can add my pages to it. So I'm going to go ahead and this is one of those things when you place it, you kind of got to go with it because this tape is so strong. So I'm going to place that there, and I can see already I didn't go over this way enough. So this one is going to, and I don't know if I can lift it. Let me see. Oh, see, I brought up some of the book here, and that may not hold. I may have to get another piece of tape. Let me go ahead and do that here real quick, because I did not go over far enough. All right, new piece of tape. All right, so I am going to go over a little bit more than I did previously. So we'll say there. And then I am going to place this here, line up my top and my bottom. And I might have to stand up so I can look over it, leaving space in the center, and place it down. So I'm going to really burnish that and make it stick. So if you use 2 pieces of cardboard, do the same thing. If you're using flat panel canvases, do the same thing. So then I am going to just pull up this end of my bookbinding tape and really burnish it down, burnish on the ends, and the same here. And I'm going to try to line up. I can see already that this is not centered because my tape is not lining up perfectly, but you know what? Whatever. We are going to go with it. I really want to burnish this end down. I'm going to make sure that center piece is sticking to itself. So now I have a journal for my Stencilfied Journal project. If you know you're going to put a lot in here and make it really thick, just make sure that you leave more space. And I can see right now it's not straight, but this is what I get for eyeballing it. You want to leave more space here, but for the purposes of this, I might be able to put one. Let me show you what I'm going to do. So we will put our elastic here, and this might be a bit tight because it's pulling in on the tape here. And let me show you what we're going to do with our paper. So these are just some vintage checks. And what this will allow us to do is to put pages in and easily remove them. So if we're working on a prompt and we want to take our paper out of our book, we can go ahead and come in here and just remove it out. I would like to put 2 elastic pieces, but I actually don't think I left enough space in here. So I may, and this is on here real good, and I don't really want to destroy the book too much, but let's see. I may take this tape off and put a new piece in and just give myself maybe 1/4 of an inch bigger, just so I have enough in here, but I might just leave it. Who knows? We'll have to see after I fold all my papers. So the other thing is too, I think these are going to be slightly too tight, but I like that they're already connected. I might have to go with it. I mean, the bookbinding tape is going to hold here. It's not going to rip. And I kind of like that. So maybe I will go with that. If I find out that these are not going to hold my papers the way I want, and again, I'll know that once I fold everything, then I'll take the elastic ribbon that I bought that I can cut to size and cut a piece that's just ever so slightly longer, maybe 1/4 of an inch longer. It's not needed that much more, and make my own tape. So anyway, once you get your book together, that's it. The next thing you want to do is take all of your papers and fold them. So, you know, our initial thing is to fold them in half, which is completely fine, and I'd say a majority of these will get folded in half. But you can also play around with that. So like, for example, I have this fun little piece on this check here, and then I have the check. So I could fold this like this, as long as this doesn't stick out, and I might have to trim it because of that, so it does stick out a little bit, and put it in my book that way. So I don't have, it doesn't have to be even. The other thing is too, when you have paper that's fragile, which, you know, a majority of my paper actually here is vintage papers. I have gel print papers, vintage papers. I'm even going to throw in a piece of acetate. I just really have to score it really well to put it in because I think it's fun to see that. With these real fragile papers, and I even have some of these too that I'm going to fold in half and fit in my book. To stabilize that seam here more, grab some of your favorite washi tape. So here's some of my washi. Some of it's not in the shop anymore, but these are my washi designs. And I learned this tip from my good friend Dee Dee Catron. It's a great way to just add some interest to your pages, as well as give support to where this is, because when I put this over the elastic, because this paper is really thin, it may rip. So just take your washi tape and center it over this folded line, you know, as much as you can. So I'm going to put a piece on that side, I'm going to flip it over and line up a piece on this side and trim up the ends and then refold it and really make that seam. So you've got a piece of paper that looks nice because you've got this really fun, cool design. Plus it adds a lot of support as we slide it in there. So I am going to let you grab your papers, grab as many or as few as you want. Again, there's going to be approximately 12-ish, 13 prompts. But you can put more paper in here if you want to duplicate any of the prompts as well. So keep that in mind as you're grabbing your paper. Grab some of your washi tape to reinforce your folds, and then meet me back here. All right, so I'm back. I've done a couple of things off camera here as I was putting my sheets together and everything. I actually did, I removed this initially and lined it up a little better, made a little more space, so probably more of a 1/2 inch between the two panels. But then as I was putting these in here, I went over it with another layer of the tape. Just to add even more support. So one thing you could potentially do is, you know, in a case like this, I could have cut a 1/2 inch piece of cardboard and used it as my spine for some more support. But I'm kind of okay with this right now. Like it moves, it's flexible. It's not going in too much here when I added the second layer, maybe a little bit here on the top, but I didn't want to overcomplicate it and add yet another step to it. So I'm okay with this, and as I work through it, you know, it's going to get looser and everything. The other thing I did, because my line wasn't completely straight on here, I wanted to clean it up. So I just took some washi, I put some glue stick down to make sure the washi really stuck to this bumpy surface. So I just took one of my washi tapes and I put it on the edge on both sides, and that just cleaned it off really nice and created a really pretty border. And I did the same here on the back side as well. And actually just now realized this back side is upside down. I wonder if this should be the front, maybe? Okay, so I have to flip my papers around. If I really want this writing to be upright here, I'll just flip my papers around because I've got them in the other direction. The other thing that I did, I originally was going to put 3 of these little signatures in here. I removed one of them because of the thinness of the book. So again, if I wanted something thicker here, if you go, I think, thicker than this, I would definitely put the cardboard here as support. Because it just gets more flimsy with just the binding tape there. But I'm okay because I have plenty of pages in here to work on for the Stencilfied Journal. And I'm okay with it. Like, I think this book has got plenty of workspace here. So you can see in here, and I'll flip it so you see the right version, but I will flip it back. I put in a variety of papers in here, and I reinforced the thinner ones with washi tape so you can see that peeking out, and I really love those pops of color. And I just try to change up as I was putting these signatures together, changing up the orientation, and I wasn't overly thinking it. Like, I really just put it together however I wanted. So this one here, because I didn't want to cut this check down, I just folded it in, tucked it in, so it creates a fun little piece in here. And the thing that's nice too is I'm, you know, working on these pages, because I haven't sewn these in, look, I can move them up and down that elastic spine, which is really, really nice. Let's see here, so this is the other end. And then on this one, similar papers, I put a stenciled paper in here. I put some more acetate in here, and actually I think the signature I removed had another sheet of acetate. I might replace one of these pages with that other sheet of acetate because I kind of really want it in here. This was kind of fun. It was a negative that I just folded and stuck in here. I don't know how I'll work on that, but I thought it was a fun addition to the book. So like you can see in here, let's just say we're working on the first prompt and I'm going through here and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I like this paper here. I'm going to do this. I can remove it just like that. I can put my book aside and I can have this on here. So if one of the prompts is to stick it in some water or tea or something, you don't have to worry about your book. You can just stick your piece of paper in there and then I can put it back in the same spot, or I can put it in however I want. So first day is to put your book together. Don't overthink it. Do it as quickly as possible. Because you're going to be covering a lot of this up. And again, you can take out pages that you don't want and you replace them with new pages. So I'm excited to work in this. I've never worked in a journal like this before. The other thing is too, I did have to, I cut some of the elastic down myself because the one that was pre-made was just a little too tight for this and it was squeezing it a little too much. So I did cut it, and you can see here I just tied a knot, and I kind of like that decorative element here on the outside, so I pulled it to the outside. So go ahead and make your books. I'm going to stick this as my closure so it kind of coordinates with the colors, and we'll be back tomorrow with the next prompt. See you.